Hey, Parkway Hills Refuge. I'm so excited to be with you today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Carrie Sharada. Myself and my husband and my family and my four kids, we've been going to Parkway for about 5 or 6 years. We've been hanging out with the youth for a couple months now. We missed you guys terribly. But virtual is as good as it's going to get today. So the topic that I have to talk to you guys about is mental health or mental illness. And as a nurse practitioner, which is what I do when I'm not being a mom, I have seen a lot of mental illness over the years, and I've really seen it at its worst. So it's a topic that I get kind of passionate about because I think it's super important to talk about, especially in this time in your life. So as I've been like just praying about this week, I felt like there were two things I really wanted to hit on, and I want to talk a little bit today about anxiety and depression because they're probably the two most common um, mental health issues, especially in your age group. So one, I just want to talk about what mental health is. It's really our emotional and our psychologic and our social well-being. It affects how we think and how we feel and how we act. It also kind of helps with the way we, or determines how we handle stress, how we relate to other people, and how we make choices. And there's three things that kind of contribute to our mental health. And so one thing is literally brain chemistry. So I know a lot of you guys are in probably chemistry or done science projects. Well, if you didn't know, your brain were like walking science projects, right? There's just chemistry going on in our brain at all times. And sometimes that chemistry can be a little bit off. And so that can cause mental illness issues. Another thing is that just the things that we go through in life and the experiences that life brings um, can contribute to mental illness or mental health issues. And then family history. So sometimes there's actually like a genetic portion of this. So for in my family, there seems to be a lot of depression issues, and it kind of starts. I have some sisters as well as their grandparents and great grandparents, kind of on and on. So you see this kind of common thread that a lot of people have in a family. And so sometimes that can also contribute to mental health. So why is this so important to talk about? Well, it's really important because right now is a really, really critical time for you guys. There are just hormones flowing. Your voices are changing. Y'all are growing. You have whirlwinds of emotion. You ladies, I'm talking to you. Sometimes you don't even know what to do with them all. And it's just this time in your life where you're just trying to figure so much out. You're trying to figure out who you are, who you want to be, who you can trust, who you can't trust, your likes, your dislikes, and just like your place in this world. It can be really overwhelming. And actually 10 to 20% of teens across the globe actually experience a mental health issue at some point in their life. So you're not alone. These are really common ways to feel and things that are really, really, really real in your age group. Okay, so let's talk about anxiety. Anxiety, actually, statistically, 1 in 3 of all teenagers between 13 and 18 will experience an anxiety disorder of some sort. This number doesn't continue to go down, it continues to rise. So every year we're seeing these numbers go up, okay? And really anxiety is this excessive uneasiness, excessive worry, excessive fear that almost becomes paralyzing and overwhelming, that you can't do normal activities of your life, or it's affecting relationships. It might be affecting the way you're sleeping. You might be sleeping, not getting enough sleep, or maybe you're just sleeping all the time. It could affect your appetite. It can affect your thinking. That's kind of that anxiety. When it gets out of control, it just becomes overwhelming and all-consuming. Now, there is a good anxiety, okay? So we talk about anxiety. Anxiety is not always bad. So our body actually gives us warning signs with that good anxiety, right? It's what protects us and what warns us and helps us focus. So if there's a bear chasing you, I hopefully that you would have the same kind of anxiety that is useful to know that you need to get away, whether that's play dead or climb a tree or run away or whatever you're supposed to do when a bear chases you. That's that good anxiety, right? So there is a normal anxiety that we all experience, and then there is an excessive anxiety that can be really detrimental to our mental health. When it comes to depression, it's estimated that 3.1 million adolescents, so 12 to 17 years old, have at least one depressive episode during that time period in their life. It is the fourth leading cause of illness and injury in teens. So something we need to talk about is just the common factors that affect mental illness or mental health, okay? Because everything around us that we do in our lives can contribute to our mental health. And so, for instance, everyone wants to harp on you guys about social media, okay? You're not alone. They harp on us adults too, okay? But the truth is, what we're watching on social media, what we're feeding our brains, what we're looking at, even if it's not on social media, what we're looking at, TV, all those things, they are affecting our mental health, right? Because we're feeding our brains with those things. Could be technology. Maybe they're feelings such as wanting more freedom. Maybe sometimes some of you guys are about to graduate, and that might be anxiety provoking, or that might actually feel like a relief, like you can't wait to have that freedom. Peer pressure, I don't know if there's any time in life where peer pressure is so real as it is. That can be totally overwhelming and confusing, especially if you don't have people you can talk to or people you can trust. Educational difficulties, you know, school is hard. School is hard, and maybe it's just really challenging right now. And you're not doing well, and that can be incredibly anxiety provoking, you know, and maybe you're hearing it from your parents and other people, and you know, it's just it feels overwhelming sometimes. That can cause a lot of distress. Maybe some of you are just having challenges with your sexual identity. Maybe you're being bullied. Could also be cyberbullying. It doesn't have to be direct bullying. Cyberbullying is a real thing. Some hard stuff, y'all, we gotta talk about is violence in the home. Okay, this happens. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. Those are all things that are very much contribute to our mental health. Financial issues, you know, sometimes life is hard. People lose jobs, parents lose jobs. That can be really anxiety provoking for a parent or a family if they can't make ends meet. And then just lack of support and resources, whether it's you or maybe your friends at school or somebody you know that just doesn't have anybody to trust or to help. And that can make somebody feel very anxious or very depressed. So a couple things, when anxiety and depression kind of get unchecked in your life, it might look a little bit like not enjoying things that you used to enjoy. So I know there was a time in high school where I felt really, really depressed. And that was when I was a competitive gymnast and I had to quit. And I was so angry, and it kind of started with anger. And I remember ripping like posters off my wall, like Olympic gymnasts. And I was so angry. And then I just stopped enjoying things that I used to enjoy. I kind of isolated myself. I remember not really sleeping very well at night. I just was like consumed by these thoughts all the time. And so that might be something that either you're going through, or you know somebody that you see that they're kind of like pulling away from all the things that maybe you used to enjoy and kind of isolating. Maybe you're just grades in school are dropping and not doing as well. That might be a sign that something's going on. So other behaviors, if you're just crying all the time, feeling sad, like you just cannot hold it in, or maybe even irritable most days. Now, I'm not saying like your friend gave you bad news or someone really ticked you off and so you're mad. I mean, like, just it's happening every day, most days, that you just uncontrollable emotions. or lashing out at people. It might be lack of energy, just not wanting to do anything. It may be feelings of worthlessness and guilt, like you're not good enough or you deserve something that happened to you. Not caring about your future, that would be really abnormal. It's not normal for us to just check out, right? Like life is worth living, and if you're feeling like there's no way out, or that the world would be better without you, that would be those would be signs that you of some pretty significant depression. And really need someone to talk to about that. And then when we don't feel like we can control our emotions, or we feel so sad or so hopeless or so overwhelmed, we're going to want something to make us feel better. And so that's where you see so much drug abuse and alcohol being used, is because people are trying to numb that hurt and that pain and that hopelessness. And so whether you're seeing that in your own family maybe, or you're seeing that in schools with your friends, is that's like a numbing agent for something, a heart issue that's going on, or something that they're trying to cover up. Other ways that anxiety and depression can get so out of control and really risky is they can be like eating disorders. A lot of eating disorders, like we can talk about anorexia, which is restricting food, or bulimia, or vomiting up food, or binging food, eating a bunch of food and then vomiting. Those are mental illness issues that a lot of times happen because we are trying to control something. So maybe life feels so out of control and you can't handle it, that food is the only thing you feel like you can control in your life. And so that's what you start doing, and it becomes unchecked and unhealthy. Cutting. I don't know if any of you have inflicted any kind of physical mutilation, or have had a friend, but a lot of women that I've talked to, sorry guys, it's a much more common in women, is that they feel so numb inside that they have to inflict pain on themselves, because it feels like they're alive. That pain at some level makes them feel like that they're really alive and that they can feel something when they feel so numb inside. Really sad. Unhealthy sexual relationships, where we're trying to find some void to make us feel better, and so that might show up as like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, maybe an unhealthy one, because we're doing it and we're in that relationship because we're just trying to like heal some pain that's deep down. As I talked about alcohol and drugs, and really the last thing I want to talk about with is really the hardest, but is suicide. So suicide is actually the third leading cause of death in ages 15 to 19 years old. I've unfortunately seen a lot of suicide over the last several years, and it's so heart-wrenching. And the sad thing is it's really preventable in so many ways. That depression, anxiety, sometimes they just go unchecked for so long, and people don't really get the help that they need. But let me tell you that there is help out there, and that life is worth living. And so that kind of leads me into this good news that I get to talk to you about, which is my favorite part. Is that first, you guys need to know that we all get overwhelmed, okay? And you're not alone in that. God knew when He created us that we would be overwhelmed, and we were never meant to bear all of this hard stuff on our own. Like those burdens that we bear, like we're not meant to carry all of that. Like God asked us to give us our burdens, and He'll exchange our heavy burdens for His light burdens. He talks about that in Matthew 11:28 and 29. Another thing is He tells us to cast all of our anxieties on Him because He cares for us. In 1 Peter 5:7, that's what He talks about, is that literally like a fishing, I don't fish, but like casting, get them out there, like cast all those anxiety on the God who created you, because He wants to know, and because He can handle it. There's nothing that you can cast to God that He doesn't already know, and he can't do something about, and that he can't be your help and your answer, and your peace when it feels like everything is just in disarray in your life or spiraling out of control. In Philippians 4, 6 and 7 says, do not be anxious about anything, which is incredibly difficult, but in everything with prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. He wants to hear from us so badly. We can bring these things to him in prayer. We can go to him in prayer anytime, and he loves to hear from his kids. He wants to reveal things to us, you guys, and he wants us to ask of him, right? And asking is actually the beginning of believing that God really is able to do those things, right? Because I probably wouldn't ask somebody to do something for me unless I really thought they could probably do it. And so it's the same with God. When we go, he wants us to ask because it's that step of faith saying, okay, I'm going to ask because I'm going to believe that you're going to hear me and that you're going to help me. And then in Psalm 61:2, this is David, who we know is like the man after God's own heart, right? And he gets anxious, right? This guy with David, like he's the guy who like slayed Goliath, right? And you wouldn't think he was anxious because he slayed a giant, but he was. And he says, from the ends of the earth, I call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. See, David knew that like he couldn't handle it all on his own. He knew he needed God to help him to get through the trials. People were literally trying to kill David. He was like running for his life. And he knew that God was the only answer that could bring him true peace and bring him freedom in his life. So a couple things. I want you to know that God is able and he's available, and he is able to set you free from anxiety and depression. He's able to free you from insecurities you might have. He's able to free you from depression, anxiety. He's self-doubt, right? He is able to free anybody from addiction. He wants to fill us with passion. He wants to fill us with purpose. He wants to fill us with self-worth, and he wants to fill us with love and determination and self-control, and he wants to fill us with boldness, because we're his kids, and he's here to help us when we get overwhelmed. You can't ever be too much for God. Your problems can't be too much for God, and God can't be overwhelmed. So you can't overwhelm God, no matter what your problems are, no matter how deep that pain is. There's no way you can overwhelm the God of the universe. If you guys are listening today and you want to talk to somebody, I encourage you to talk to Sai or one of your leaders. You are loved, you're not alone, and your leaders are here to help you and support you. And Sai and Kelsey have my number. If you guys ever want to reach out to me, I'm always here. I hope you guys enjoyed this today. I love you so much, and I hope you have a truly blessed morning. Bye, guys.